Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. Today is Thoughtful Thursday. We're going to go in the Old Testament. We're going through some women in the Bible. We're obviously not going to be able to cover all of them this week, but we're going to talk about Abigail and the story of Nabal, Abigail, and King David. Now, in this scenario, and let's not confuse Nabal with Nabil. Nabal just means fool, and he is just a foolish man. But let's not get the two names confused here. Now, Abigail here is the wife of Nabal, and Nabal is just a very wealthy man, has lots of things. And prior to this story here in 1 Samuel 25, Nabal's shepherds were on David's land, and he allowed the shepherds to do what they need to do and did not charge them or anything like that. And now David is in a spot where he is in need. And now he goes to Nabal and thinking that he would be able to repay and be able to seek shelter and food. Well, Nabal is just a foolish man, and so he refuses David's request. And David goes back and is just about to, prepare his men to go and destroy Nabal and everything that he owns. Well, Abigail, she is a woman who just steps out in faith, risks her own life. And I want you to think about it for your scenario, for your circumstances. Has there been a point where you stepped out in faith? Has there been a point where maybe you saw a situation where somebody was acting foolish and you stepped out in faith and we're like, hey, you know what? Don't disregard what they said or what they did, and let me remedy this situation here. And that's really what Abigail was doing here. And listen to 1 Samuel 25, starting in verse 23. Here, now this is when David was on his way to destroy everything that Nabal and everything that he owned. Verse 23, when Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord, and let me speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say." Now, she didn't know David personally. She didn't know how he was going to respond, but she goes out of her way, packs all these gifts on her donkey, and goes to David personally. And now she says, just please listen to me. And he says, now, my Lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives and as you live, since the Lord has kept you from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, may your enemies and all who are intent on harming my Lord be like Nabal. And let this gift which your servant has brought to my Lord be given to the men who follow you. So really, Abigail just really steps out in her faith, risks her life, and shows the respect and honor that King David deserves. And there are such lessons here that we can learn from this woman here who steps out in faith, not knowing what the outcome may be, but sees the need, sees the folly of her husband, and was like, hey, how can I remedy this situation here? And long story short, now a little spoiler alert, where actually God puts a disease on Nabal and then he dies and Abigail becomes his wife. That's a long story short. I want to encourage you to go and read the chapter. But what are some lessons here that we can learn from Abigail? Well, we need to step out in faith. Despite the uncertainty, the unknown, she saw a need, and not knowing what was going to happen, in her wisdom and her insight and her just following and saying, hey, I'm going to take this step of faith. What area in your life do you need to take that step of faith? Think about that. For Thoughtful Thursday, think about that area and what is holding you back. Maybe today is a day that we can learn from Abigail to take that step of faith, take that risk, and see what God might do in and through you today. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for another Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.